Meta has introduced Llama 3. People have been talking about Llama 3 for a while. I mean, and think about how fast all this is moving. Llama took the world by storm with its open source. Not so long ago, this has been a heck of a year. It's actually being rolled out much quicker with 8B and 70B parameter versions available now. But it's looking like it is radically outperforming a ton of other open source models. It's huge. Sort of a few little kind of like weird things about sort of like a smaller token window, everything like that. But for the most part, Jaden, everybody is really excited about this. What are you seeing in this space?
Well, the first thing I got to bring up is that if any of you watch the actual announcement that Mark Zuckerberg gave on this, whoever is on his PR team is doing a fantastic job. Mark Zuckerberg went from being like, kind of like, you know, a nerdy, a little bit awkward guy. His haircut was like, I don't know who cut his hair for the last, 10 years. Now this he's grown his hair out. He looks like a surfer. He's got long, curly locks.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Forget the frustration of picking commerce platforms when you switch your business to Shopify, the global commerce platform that supercharges your selling wherever you sell. With Shopify, you'll harness the same intuitive features, trusted apps, and powerful analytics used by the world's leading brands. Sign up today for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/tech, all lowercase. That's shopify.com/tech.
Wearing a chain. Some people say he's got the entire blockchain around his neck. Like, this guy is, the more he's dripping, the more his models are popping off. Yeah. So Zuckerberg, big hats off to the PR team for, I think he's kind of feeling on top of the world right now. In any case, I think this technology is pretty cool. What they're doing now with Llama. So this is now they have a new 8B and 70B parameter version. What is really interesting is that they said in the next few months they're actually going to have a 400 billion parameter version. So we're at 70 right now. This is going up to 400 billion, at which point legend has it, it's comparable to GPT-4. So what's interesting about this is not that, another model hit GPT-4, because, you have like Anthropic's Claude and some Google Gemini ones that are doing that. This is open source. Like, anyone can grab this and run this, and I assume that it's going to get more open source. I know that like Meta has like some funny rules about it right now.
Right.
I think eventually this is just going to be like free. So there's been a ton of memes on X, which I'm not sure if you saw any of these, Connor, but they were just like, essentially a company that has 10 times your amount of users and has 100 times more money theoretically. Creates an AI model that's comparable, and they give it away for free. That's essentially what Meta is doing compared to ChatGPT. Now, I always preface everything by saying OpenAI might have like GPT-5 around the corner that just crushes everybody. I don't know, maybe not. But for the moment, they literally have gotten something almost as good, and they're giving away for free. So this is cool, and the reach on this is insane. So yeah, I'm curious what your thoughts are on all that.
Well, the reach, I think, is the big point, right? I mean, the open source question is so interesting. So you remember about a year ago with News, I think we talked about this before maybe, but like, that leaked paper out of Google, I think it was out of Google, like, we don't have any moat, OpenAI doesn't have any moat, open source is coming. I think that was actually even before Meta started like launching and doing open source, if I remember correctly. I might have that wrong. But now when you have sort of, open source being, run by, Meta and some, and now I guess Grok too, which is kind of coming on pretty strong too. But Meta, my gosh, with the resources behind it, the revenue model to me is still extremely curious. I'm still just trying to figure out like where they're going with this. But to your point on the reach, certainly like they're making developers really happy. I think that, who has turned it around more than Mark Zuckerberg himself over the last, I don't even want to say 12 months. Maybe 8 months. Like, to your point about
never bet against the Zuck.
Gene, no lie. You're sort of like half joking about the PR team, but he's now kind of looking sort of cool. And that is the least of the things. He's like becoming like this phenomenal CEO. Meta is outperforming like tons of other organizations. And he was like public enemy number one with Facebook and social media and all that kind of stuff. And look, nobody skates, but still, you really got to give this guy props because, open source, first and foremost, developers love this thing. But then also to your point about reach, right, like what happens if you get in here? And I'm wondering if they're trying to build a moat around things like Instagram, Facebook, I don't know, but like, WhatsApp, things like that. Like if something like WhatsApp, and I don't know if you've tried, I've tried the Meta Assistant in WhatsApp. it's actually really good. And then, Instagram has all that. So with all the, social media, kind of dog fights and all that kind of stuff and all things, like around Telegram and everything like that are sort of competing with WhatsApp. I mean, my gosh, this could sort of like allow them to hold on to their product and hold on to their audience in a way that could be extraordinary. Because I think that the one thing that could get people to move off of, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, WhatsApp or something that you use all the time, is if you know that this other thing, first of all, your friends have to be on it, of course. But second of all, an AI assistant built in is a really, it's a huge, selling point for this thing. So maybe even if he's just using it to integrate into these products and keep people on those extremely lucrative products like Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp, even that could be a great model for him, right?
Yeah, I think that this is an interesting problem. And, a lot of people like yourself, you're like, well, what's the monetization move here? I don't think there is a monetization move. I think Zuckerberg is playing 4D chess with this. And I think it's very smart. In politics, this probably comes from like Sun Tzu's Art of War or something. But in politics, it's like if there's major issues in a country, the best thing and you can't fix them, the best thing to do is just like distract the people with something different. I feel like that's like some philosophical,
very gladiator,
whatever.
Very gladiator, right? Yeah.
Yeah, very gladiator, right? So I feel like this is exactly what Zuckerberg's play is here, right? If you just remember a couple years ago, there was a ton of legislators, both sides of the aisle, right and left leaning in the United States saying, we need to break up Meta. It's getting too powerful. We need to split Instagram into its own company, WhatsApp into its own company, Facebook into its own company. This was something that Zuckerberg has had to play like politics quite a bit more than he probably wanted to over the last 5 years. He's got flack from both sides of whatever, everything around that situation. But you see, like, it's more than just a how fast can I grow my company. For him, it's like once you get your company to a certain size, it's like there's different rules of the game you're playing. Now he's got to appease the powers that be so he doesn't get broken up, doesn't get antitrusted. And I think that this AI move he's doing right now is cover for that. It's like a distraction. It's like, yeah, whatever. I have like the social media thing. I've had that for a long time. But look, guys, I'm making an AI and I'm giving away to everyone for free. And we're spending billions of dollars on this. And it's worked for me personally, who I've been like annoyed at him plenty in the past. But right now I'm like, gee, this whole Facebook thing is doing pretty great because like they're open sourcing this. Like that builds a ton of goodwill with developers, with regulators, with everyone. Like it feels like, how can you get mad at someone that spends $1 billion and gives away their AI model open source for free for the good of the world, right? So I think that this is probably more the play, if I'm being 100% honest. And I think the reach is insane on it, right? They put this thing into WhatsApp. They put this all over the place. It's got like now probably like 1 to 10 billion users, or at least it's in front of that many users on all these devices. So it's arguably one of the number one most seen used AI models. And the open source element, I think, provides the cover he needs to continue operating the social media empire, which of course is just a giant cash cow, makes a ton of money.
So you know that I'm always here for Jaden conspiracy theories. And this does not even feel like one. I got to tell you, like, this feels like totally legit. I think that actually could be dead on. And I mean, it's because if you think about like what somebody in that position would pay for goodwill, it's almost infinite, right? I mean, because like there's, you have everything else that you need in the world. So even if it was just purely an ego play, that's one thing. But then Jaden, even sort of, I mean, think about how Meta has been exploring this sort of like artificial Tom Brady and, Kardashian and, Mr. Beast, all that kind of stuff. I mean, in the same way, Mistral has gone from completely open source, and now with Microsoft, they're sort of starting to build a closed source that will, they could charge for. I don't know exactly how that model will work either, but I'm sort of like wondering too. I mean, you look at something like character AI, right? Like that's number 1, 2, or 3. Like it is really, really huge up there. And if you haven't familiar, like this is sort of like the artificial friend or girlfriend or whatever. I mean, this is sort of like the companion. I'm just wondering if character AI is sort of in line, not getting, they're too big to get steamrolled at this point, but like Meta feels like the best positioned because it's all social, right? It's like it grew, it's sort of like it cut its teeth on social, all that kind of stuff. People notice social. Like, I wonder if that's the big play, because that actually play is going to be probably second only to sort of like a more general large language model, right? So I wonder if Meta is positioning itself for a paid version of that once they have everybody comfortable having talked to artificial AI Tom Brady on whatever for a year, and then it's like, hey guys, we're gonna go kind of like we're gonna close this up, and it's gonna be $6 a month or something like that. I could also see that route they go too.
Yeah, that could be super interesting. I'll be curious to see. I mean, Meta definitely is one to clone features in other apps. So if there's a successful business model with like character AI doing it, I'm sure they'll be happy to clone that. What I want to say though, as far as like the size of this thing and just kind of how impressive it is, the model was trained on a data set which is 7 times bigger than Llama 2. So they're already making a big jump. We know they're making an even bigger jump in the future. It has about 15 trillion tokens, and it has 4 times more code in this model. So arguably this thing is getting not just bigger, but more useful for specific tasks like coding and other things. So I think all in all, this is really exciting to see kind of where this goes in the future.
Well, the other thing on sort of in the parameter front too, it has an unusually, as I may mention, but like unusually small context window. I think it's like 8K or something like that, which is really going against the grain on all this. And I think they probably had to give somewhere, you know what I mean? Like, and that was probably the place. I mean, when you think about the size of the context windows that, I mean, even OpenAI, let alone, Claude, let alone Gemini, right, are using, I mean, that just takes a ton of resources and a ton of money, essentially. And so if Meta's going to give somewhere, it's probably not a bad place to give, because I don't think people are coming over to Meta to sort of like dump like the Lord of the Rings trilogy in there and everything like that. So it almost feels like they are expecting kind of like shorter interactions, shorter conversations. And it might expand, but if you're going to sort of like get your product out there, that feels like, I don't know, like it feels like a good place to give. And I'm just, gosh, you and I talk about this a lot. Gotta say, really impressed with Meta these days.
Yeah, super fascinating. If you enjoyed the episode today, we would super, super appreciate it if you could drop us a review, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast. If you're over on Spotify, hit the About tab, scroll down. That's where the reviews are at. Some people say it's hidden. On Apple, you can leave us a comment. We read them all. We really appreciate them. And I hope that you all have an amazing rest of your day.